So today you guys are watching this video to learn about how to factor when a does not equal 1, or also known as when a is greater than 1. The first thing you do is you check for your GCF always. That is nothing new. That is something that I've been talking about for a while. So you always check for your GCF. Step 2, because a is not 1, it's bigger than 1, what you want to do is you want to multiply a and c together. So whatever a is, whatever c is, you multiply them together and you get a number. Now, step 3, you want to find two numbers that multiply to give you the number you found in step 2, or basically a times c, and add to give you b, just like before. Once you figure out what those two numbers are, then you make a fraction with ax on top. So whatever a is, you put an x with it and put it on top, and you basically create a fraction on top of those two numbers. Then the last step, you reduce and write your binomials. So in other words, write your answer. So we're going to take a look at a couple of examples, and so you can see how each step applies. So number 1, you have to check for your GCF. Well, if you look, 6c squared plus 7c plus 2, there is no GCF. So that's step 1 done and out. So step 2, you have to multiply a and c together. A is 6, c is 2, 6 times 2 is 12. So that's your number. So now step 3, you're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you AC. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me 12 and add to give me my B, which is 7. So I need to figure out what two numbers multiply to give me a positive 12 and add to give me a positive 7. Well, those two numbers are 3 and 4. So I'm going to write down those numbers, a positive 3 and a positive 4. So now step 4 says make a fraction with ax on top. So I'm going to make a fraction, and on top I'm going to put ax. Or in this case, since my variable is c, I'm going to put ac. So since a is 6, I'm going to put 6c at the top of both of these. So no matter whatever a is in your problem, that goes on top. And that's step 4. Now step 5, you reduce your fractions and write the binomials. So 6 over 3. That reduces down to be 2 over 1. Or in this case, 2c over 1. Over here, 6c over positive 4 reduces down to be 3c over a positive 2. Because 2 can go into both 6 and 4 for this fraction, and then 3 can go into 6 and 3 in the first fraction. Now the reason why I left it as 2 over 1 is because I need to write it as a binomial. So a binomial, I need to have two terms in there. So whenever it actually reduces down to be a whole number, always write it as a fraction, 2 over 1. So now I write my binomials. So I'm going to have 2c plus 1 as my first factor, and 3c plus 2. This is what's known as the California method. This is how you factor trinomials when a is greater than 1, or when a does not equal 1. And we always check with our FOIL method. 2c times 3c is 6c squared. 2c times 2 is a positive 4c. 1 times 3c is a 3c. And 1 times 2 is 2. When I combine like terms, I get my original problem. So we did good. These are the factors. So just to review the steps again, you look for the GCF, you multiply a and c together, you find the two numbers that multiply to give you AC and add to give you B. When you write those down, you make a fraction with AX on top, or whatever variable it is, okay? So A and your variable. So we C, B, D, whatever. Then you reduce your fractions, like we did here, and then write our binomials. So let's do the next one. Is there a GCF? No. So, step 1 is done. Step 2, we multiply a and c together. Now c is negative, so we want to take that into consideration. 3 times negative 16 is negative 48. So step 2 is done. Step 3, I need to look for my two numbers that multiply to give me AC, so multiply to give me negative 48, and add together to give me 2. So let's think about it. Did you get positive 8 and negative 6? You should. 8 plus a negative 6 is going to be a positive 2, and 8 times negative 6 is going to be negative 48. So that's step 3 done. Step 4, you write AX, or in this case, AH, on top. So that's going to be a 3H on top of both of these. So step 4 is done. Step 5, we reduce and write our binomials. 3 over 8 does not reduce down, so when it doesn't reduce, then that is just your factor. So you just write it down, you do nothing to it. However, this fraction reduces down to be 1h over negative 2. So that 1h minus 2 is my other factor. Do you have to write the 1? No, you do not have to write the 1. And then of course you FOIL to check your answer. Pause this video and try this one on your own. There was no GCF. You multiply A and C together to get 40. You look for two numbers that multiply to give you 40, add to give you a negative 22. That should have been negative 20 and negative 2. Step 4, write AX on top, or in this case, it's P. So I'm going to write a 5P on top of both of these. Then the last step, reduce. This first fraction reduces down to 1P over negative 4. The second fraction doesn't reduce at all. And so my factors are P minus 4 and 5P minus 2. Pause this video and try these two. Okay, so hopefully you took a second to pause the video and try these problems out. Your first step is you look for your GCF. There is a GCF in this particular problem, a 2. So hopefully you factored that out, and you got 6a squared minus 5a minus 4. So that's the first step. You check for your GCF. Now, if you notice, a is still not 1. So your second step, you multiply a and c together, and you should have gotten negative 24. That's step 2. Step 3, you look for two numbers that multiply to give you negative 24, add to give you a negative 5, and hopefully for those two numbers, you got negative 8 and positive 3. So then, step 4, you create your fraction with AX on top, but in this case, our variable is A, so we're going to put a 6A on top. And the last step is we reduce and write our binomials. Hopefully you reduce the first fraction down to be 3A over negative 4, and the second fraction you reduced it down to be 3A over, just kidding, 2A over a positive 1. So you should have had 3A minus 4 and 2A plus 1, but you cannot forget, you factored out a negative 2, which was a positive 2, which was your GCF. So you always bring that down. This one, there was no GCF, so you go straight into number 2. You multiply A and C together to get a positive 25. Two numbers that multiply to give you a positive 25, add to give you a negative 26 are negative 25 and negative 1. On top, you put A, which is a 5m, and then you reduce. The first fraction reduces down to be m over negative 5. The second fraction doesn't reduce. Now I know what you're thinking, but there's an x here. I'm not really quite sure what to do. If you recall from the other day, when you have a variable at the end, that just means you have to put the variable at the end of your binomial. So we're still going to have m minus 5 and 5m minus 1, but just now we're going to have an x at the end of both of those. And that is your final answer. Don't forget you can FOIL to check this. So we're going to FOIL on this last one. M times 5m is 5m squared. M times negative 1x is a negative mx. Negative 5x times 5m is a negative 25mx. And the last term, negative 5x times negative 1, is a positive 5x squared. combine like terms, and you get your original problem. So, hopefully this video helps. If not, there's always Khan Academy, YouTube, your friends, all that good stuff.